Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the 30th edition of the Adam Eisen Show. There's a packed episode planned for today with plenty of NFL and NBA to talk about, as well as a special guest coming on about halfway through the episode. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I want to start today a little bit differently. The NBA instead of the NFL. The Eastern and Western Conference Finals are going on right now. The NBA is at the best time of the year, in my opinion, and we're going to start it off with the Miami Heat versus Boston Celtics. And from my opinion, from watching this series so far, Game 4 was last night. Celtics tied it up 2-2. And from watching this series, I think Boston is the significantly better team. However, Miami is just one of the worst possible matchups for them across the entire league. Miami is one of the most physically tough and just best built teams out there. If we take a look at the stats in this series, points per game, Boston's outscoring them 112 to 109. Field goal percentage, Boston's beating them 48.5 to 46.5. Three-pointers made, Boston's beating them 43 to 31. And free throws made, Boston's beating them 68 to 58. Boston has beat them in all of the key stat categories in this series. Boston has more elite players, but they are not talented enough. They are not tough enough to mail it in, and Miami knows it. Miami may be limited, but they know it. They're aware of it. They're playing undrafted guys. They went the first two games without Kyle Lowry, had to go a half without Jimmy Butler. Miami knows they're limited. But Miami knows, since they know they're not the most talented team in the league, they're playing above the shoulders basketball, and they're winning. They're using their brain. They're using basketball IQ. They're using physical toughness. They are not out-talenting Boston in any way. They are outworking them. They have had bad quarters because they have limitations. They know that. We know that. Everyone knows that. But it borders bizarre to me that Boston, in a series tied 1-1, going into Game 3, Boston is a no-show in the first quarter at home. They had no intensity whatsoever. Not to mention, in this series, Boston clearly is getting all of the breaks. We already talked about it. Kyle Lowry was out Game 1 and Game 2. Jimmy Butler went out in the third quarter in Game 3 after only scoring 8 points, and his team was still able to win by 6 points. Boston has been getting all of the breaks, and we've seen time and time again teams take advantage of injuries. Back in the past, Golden State versus Houston a few years back, Houston was about to beat Golden State, and CP3 got injured. It changed the series. Golden State used it to their advantage. Toronto with Golden State in the NBA Finals a few years back. Golden State fell apart. Toronto, they used that to their advantage. Lowry was out the first couple of games, and Jimmy missed a half of basketball. And the Boston Celtics did not capitalize. They did not capitalize on the breaks they were given. Secondly, Miami, this whole season, the whole regular season, has been a phenomenal 3-point shooting team. They, this entire postseason, have not shot the ball particularly well from 3. And lastly, the Celtics purely have more good players. They shoot a higher field goal percentage. And as we talked about, Miami does not feel like a complete team. They have bad quarters. They are just beating the Boston Celtics with toughness right now, basketball IQ, and playoff experience. They're getting all the breaks and are losing due to Miami's toughness. They're losing due to above-the-shoulders play. This series for Boston, if they lose, is not just disappointing. It's a little bit of a disaster for them. We went over it. They've gotten the breaks in this series, and for years now, the Celtics have continued to come up short. You have these three great players with you. One of them being a top 10 player in the league, Jason Tatum. And they are not able to capitalize no matter how many times they get close, get to the Eastern Conference Finals. If they manage to lose this series, there's going to be trouble in Boston, and they're going to be singing songs about Jimmy B and the Heat down in Miami. Going on to the Western Conference Finals today, Dallas Mavericks versus Golden State Warriors. Golden State is now up 3-0. This is not, I will come on here, I will fully admit, this is not what I expected to happen in this series. You all remember what I said last episode. I thought Luka, the chosen one from overseas, I thought he was going to come in here and beat the Warriors the same way he beat the Phoenix Suns. My bets for Game 3, I was betting Mavs minus 1.5, over 218. The only one I got right was Luka, over 32.5 points. Dallas-Phoenix series, Dallas started off 0-2, came back, won games 3 and 4, but it is evident at this point that Dallas has no hope in this series. This looks to me like the Golden State of old. Both Game 2 and Game 3, they were down going into the third quarter, and they put up shots, got hot, and buried the other team in a matter of minutes, just like we would all have to sit there and watch happen to our favorite teams back in the day. My take from all of this, and you all have probably noticed at this point, not the biggest fan of Kevin Durant in the world, and I tend to think about him a lot when I see the Warriors situation. My take from this is, what must Kevin Durant be thinking right now? This is a guy, he's someone who uses burner accounts. We know that. He's got to inflate his ego a little bit on Twitter with fake accounts. He got eliminated in the first round, and we have seen now 3 seasons in a row, he's not a guy who can do it on his own. The whole Nets thing, this whole year, if you watch them play basketball, it never felt good. Kyrie Irving, no bench, a first-year head coach who shouldn't have been a head coach. The Nets were just not a solid team and not pretty to watch at all. And now the Warriors, KD's old team, are going to go to the NBA Finals and have everything. They have starters, they have the bench, they have culture, they have depth, they have talent, they have Steph. They have everything they could want. And now you watch him, and it's like, how much Kevin Durant is watching them, and it's like, damn, how much fun would it be to still play there? How much would we be winning right now if I would have just stayed and put my ego behind me? And then you go watch the Nets, and it's like torture out there on the court. KD every single night is carrying them. While it's a players' league, this is a very cautious tale of the grass is not always greener on the other side. Be careful on bailing on a Hall of Fame head coach, a Hall of Fame point guard, and a Hall of Fame culture. And the guy we really need to give credit to here is Steve Kerr, in my opinion. Steve Kerr, he was a great player. He was a great broadcaster. He's a Hall of Fame level head coach. And by the way, I think he is single-handedly one of the most smartest guys we have ever seen in this league. The fact that he has been able to keep this team together for as long as he has since they won their first title back in 2015. He was able to keep this team together. Brought in guys like Andrew Wiggins, on 25 other teams in the league would not have worked. Andrew Wiggins needed a good system to make him work, and he filled in to Kevin Durant's role somehow perfectly. Steve Kerr, Steph Curry are the best player-coach tandem in the league, and it's not even close. Bringing it all back to KD now. The Warriors have now won pre-KD. They've won during KD. And now they're likely headed to the NBA Finals post KD. And in my opinion, they're going to win the NBA Finals. The Warriors are the best team left, without a doubt. So don't tell me that this does not bother Kevin Durant. Don't tell me this doesn't bother him with what we know about burner accounts and him running and him having an ego. Don't tell me this doesn't bother him. The Warriors are just so fun. They're so classy and so aesthetically pleasing. It's just all about winning, which is what sports should be about. That's what the great organizations, that's what the dynasties are about. That's what Michael was all about. He was all about winning, and that's exactly what Steve Kerr, who played with Michael, brought into Golden State. A great culture, a Hall of Fame culture, and a culture that all they cared about was winning, was getting back to the promised land. Before I get off the NBA and head over to the NFL, I want to give you all my Game 4 predictions for tonight's Warriors-Mavericks game. Tip-offs at 9 o'clock, and I already admitted I've been betting on the Mavs, and I guess I can't do it to myself anymore. They're down 0-3. I got to take today the Warriors plus 1.5. Even if they don't win, I think it's going to come down to like a last-second shot. And like we have been talking about, the Warriors are looking like the ones of old. The other bet for today is going to be the over-under, which is set at 215.5, which is 3 points lower than it was for Game 3 the other night. This is going to be the first time you guys have heard me say it in a few days, but I think the under is likely the right move here. Just feeling that way. Going to be a lower scoring game. Warriors plus 1.5, under 215.5 total. Transitioning on to the NFL today, right before we bring on our special guest, I want to talk a little bit about the New Orleans Saints, their schedule, and the doubt they've been receiving ahead of this upcoming season. Now, New Orleans Saints, personally, I actually like a lot coming into this season. They may not have Drew Brees anymore. They may not have Sean Payton anymore. They may be over the salary cap. But taking a look at their schedule, this is a team, in my opinion, that should absolutely start 4-2 or better. They open up week 1 at home away against the Falcons. When? Then they get a home game against Tampa Bay. It's likely a loss. But then you get to go to Carolina, who doesn't have a quarterback, Sam Darnold, and that's going to be a win. We're looking at 2-1 for the Saints. Then you get to play the Vikings at home. That's likely a win, 3-1. Then you get to play the Seahawks at home. The Seahawks that don't have a quarterback, a worse quarterback than the Carolina Panthers, a defensive-minded head coach. We're already looking at 4-1 after the first 5 weeks, and then week 6 is the Bengals, so we'll just go ahead and chalk that up as an L. 4-2 after the first 6 weeks, and everybody might be thinking, there's no way they'll win those games. Well, I'm going to take you through their team, and I'm going to tell you why I think the Saints could legitimately win 10 to 11 games and make a wild card spot. People seem to forget just how good Jameis Winston was doing before he got hurt. He was 5-2 as a starter, including a dismantling of the Packers opening weekend. He threw for 1,200 yards, 14 touchdowns to just 3 picks, along with averaging 7.3 yards a throw. This is not the same old Jameis Winston that everybody knows, who needed eye surgery and all that. He got his eye surgery. He could see who he's throwing the ball to now. It's not a defender. It's his wide receiver. And while I don't love their head coach hiring in Dennis Allen, purely because he is a defensive guy and the league is changing, but he is a guy who worked under Sean Payton for years and knows how this building operates. Not to mention the Saints draft was phenomenal. They got a stud wide receiver, Chris Olave, at 11, which I love. And then you go at 19 and you pick offensive tackle Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. And if you all know anything about college football, you know that Iowa schools are good for two things: the best offensive linemen in the game and the best tight ends in the game. For all you Saints fans out there, don't be so worried and have your faith in Jameis Winston. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to play winning football. You've got Taysom Hill. You got Thomas. You've got Kamara. You've got the pieces in place. You can bring it back. Don't be so down and out that Breeze and Peyton are gone. The next generation of players are here, and hope is on the horizon. Now, I'm excited to welcome back to the show Jonathan Miller. It has been a couple months since he has been on here, but earlier this week he hit me up saying he had to come on to explain to everyone why his Chicago Bears are destined for a good season. And as always, I'm here as a Packers fan to tell him why he's delusional. Let's go ahead, get into it. Johnny, how we doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for coming back on. I'm ready to hear your breakdown of the Bears for this upcoming season. You texted me a few days ago. You're saying you felt like they could go 10-7, and I want to hear why you think that way.
Yeah, so I feel like a lot of people are downplaying the Bears a lot this season. And I've heard some ridiculous takes. People saying like the Bears are one of the teams this season that can only grab like 3 or 4 wins, or could possibly go like 0-17. And I just think that's ridiculous, because if you look at last year, we were able to grab 6 wins, and it was one of like the top 10 hardest schedules of last season. And that was with a rookie quarterback, an injured Khalil Mack, just a beaten up offense and defense. And we're still able to grab 6.
That's actually a good point. I didn't think about that.
On a really hard schedule last season. And then you come into this season without Matt Nagy, a rookie head coach, a sophomore year Justin Fields, a younger defense, and I know like younger defense means like less experience, but at the same time, you still have guys like Eddie Jackson, Robert Quinn, Roquan Smith to lead those young guys. And you need young guys, because the older you get, the slower your defense is going to be. So, I feel pretty good about our defense this season. And then, the main problem that people have with the Bears this season is the offense. And it's purely because people, they look at our wide receiver core and they're like, oh, Darnell Mooney, Byron Pringle,
Yeah, that was going to be my question. I was going to say, how do you respond to people saying you don't have weapons? Yeah. All you got to have is Montgomery, Mooney, Pringle, Jones Jr., and Kemet.
Yeah, well, the thing is I don't think the Bears franchise has never been about, flashy, powerful offense. And we've been able to be good, with that. Like, look at 2018, that offense. It was good enough to get the job done. And I think that's really like all you really need, especially with this year's Bears defense. I just think this year's Bears defense is going to be very good. And I think like if this offense can just put up like 2 or 3 touchdowns a game, and Cairo Santos comes in and puts in a couple field goals or whatever. We can win games, especially against the teams that we're playing this season. I'm mostly talking about like this specific season. Like the future, I think we're going to be even better. But
the schedule is much better for you all this season, yeah. But I don't see 10 wins. I see week 3 is against Houston. That's a win.
Yeah.
Week 4 at the Giants. That's a win.
Yeah.
Week 5 at Minnesota. That's debatable.
Yeah. Here's the thing for the Bears is I don't know. I think a lot of the teams. So, for example, the week 1 against the 49ers.
Yep.
I actually think that's quite a winnable game, because you think about their QB situation and you think about
that is true. They're not going to know what they're doing week 1.
There's a mystery there, and also you don't know if Deebo Samuel's coming back. There's just a lot of unknown in San Francisco. So I actually, I think we have a good chance in that game. And Sunday Night Football against the Packers. I think that's interesting.
Y'all know I don't even want to hear.
No, I actually think, because we came into Green Bay last year. We had to lead at halftime. We just Devontae Adams is a single team wrecking crew.
Yep.
He's a single team wrecking crew. Now you guys don't have him. That's a big. That's a pretty huge deal.
My biggest problem with the Chicago Bears is I look at what the rest of the division did this offseason, minus the Packers. We know how the Packers offseason has gone. We have less receivers than you all left. Minus the Packers, the Vikings and the Lions. The Lions really have gotten a lot better this offseason. Yeah. This is going to be a much better division this upcoming year than it was in years past.
Yeah. No, it definitely is. And I like, the Lions. I mean, the Bears, it wasn't a flashy offseason, I guess to say, because it was like we did sign in, free agency.
Yeah, you got a couple guys, and you just picked up. You got Pringle.
Yeah, and I mean, in the draft, we picked up some young guys for our secondary, and 2 new offensive linemen. I think it really just the Bears season hinges on if the young guys can step up to the plate.
Yeah, I was going to say it hinges on that and Justin Fields.
Yeah.
The same way the Packers season, every season hinges on Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. No, I mean, for me, like, this season is eerily similar to the 2018 season because that 2018 season was Mitch's sophomore year and it was a rookie head coach. This season, Justin's sophomore year, rookie head coach. So I
do like the way they went with head coach a lot better this season compared to Matt Nagy. Matt Nagy was not it for years. We talked about it a lot.
No, it was so bad. Yeah. So I'm optimistic. I just have faith in our young guys like Thomas Graham Jr., the corner. He came in, he was on the practice squad. He came in against the Vikings last season and had a couple pass deflections and I think maybe an interception. So I mean, he came in that game and he played great, and he's going to be starting this season. So
I would give the Bears probably 8 wins.
Yeah,
I would be comfortable with 8. But like you were saying, you came on here and said people have been doubting saying 3 or 4 wins. I don't think that's realistic at all.
It's not. No, it's not. Because even if we don't have a star wide receiver, Mooney, it's his 3rd season now. He had a 1,000-yard season last season. I mean, and Byron Pringle, I feel like even then people are like, oh, Byron Pringle's not good. But I mean, it's hard.
It all depends on your quarterback. It all depends on the system.
Yeah, well, and it depends on the system because I feel like, even if Darnell Mooney was on the Chiefs, I mean, Byron Pringle is overshadowed by Kelsey, Hill.
Yeah, there's just so many guys. They had Watkins for years.
Yeah, so it's like I feel like Byron Pringle hasn't really gotten a chance to fully, show himself. So, I mean, I'm just optimistic, and I think that our running back room, is one of the best, for depth.
You've been saying that for years, and I haven't been able to get behind it for years. I don't like Montgomery.
Really? Okay, I think he's better.
I'm not a huge fan of Montgomery.
I think he's better than Josh Jacobs, but and then flashes last.
That's an interesting take. Josh Jacobs or Montgomery?
Because I was looking at the stats. I don't know if it was from last season or the season before, but Montgomery averaged more yards per carry, and he had more yards and less carries or something like that. So it was. I'll look at the stats again.
That's interesting.
I think that
he's definitely one. Montgomery gets hurt a good bit, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah. With great running backs like that, or running backs that are on the edge, it comes down to injuries like that.
Yeah.
So let's find with the rest of the NFC North. I'm going to start doing one of these breakdowns for each division per week. This week, we're starting with the NFC North since we were already talking about the Chicago Bears. Obviously, we now got to find a spot for the rest of the teams. We got the Packers, we got the Lions, we got the Vikings, and I'm going to go ahead and start off with my team, the Packers. And the same way Johnny might be a little bit biased for the Bears, I might just be a little bit biased for the Packers. But I think the obvious weakness this upcoming season, I've been saying it for weeks, is wide receiver. If you line up our wide receivers against the Rams wide receivers, our number 1 wide receiver would not be their number 3. So it's kind of hard to, how are we going to compete with that? And then, but they've been loading up on defense. The real plan for the Packers looks like defense, which I don't understand a lot. Aaron Rodgers seems to be comfortable with it. In this division with a good defense and Aaron Rodgers, you can beat the other teams. The Bears, the Vikings, and the Lions, they've gotten better this offseason, but I still think Aaron Rodgers will go out and win the division and either get 12 wins or 13 wins this upcoming season and take the crown in the division. Johnny, do you think the Packers will win the division?
Yeah, I mean, I do. I mean, the Packers are going to win the division. It's just
The defense is going to be in. So we're going to have the best deal. We might have the best defense in the league this year.
Yeah, it's like that's kind of like, in my opinion, I think that's a little bit overpowered with the Packers because you have Aaron Rodgers, who's already, in my opinion, the best quarterback in the league. So he can, no matter what wide receivers he has, like he can make them a star. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, 100%. That's what I keep thinking. I think back to 2015, and we got like 11 wins. Our best wide receiver was Jeff Janis. He was out of the league a year later.
Yeah. So to me, it's like, if you already have Aaron Rodgers, your offense is going to be at least above average with Aaron Rodgers. Yep. And then you have arguably, a top 3 defense in the NFL. Like that's
they loaded up on for years now. We've been loading up on defense, and then we take 2 first-round picks defense.
Yeah. So the Packers, I think, are going to win the division. I think that Vikings, Bears, I think they're going to fight for second. I have the Bears probably between 8 and 10 wins.
The Vikings, here's my thing with the Vikings, is I'm leaning towards putting them in second place purely because they finally got Zimmer out of there. Kevin O'Connell, I love. He's an offensive guy. Zimmer was stuck in his defensive ways. And like the rest of the league, the Vikings are like transitioning towards offense.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And, it just matters it really just hinges on Kirk Cousins.
100%. Do you remember a few years ago when Minnesota went to the NFC Championship game against the Eagles?
Yep.
I feel like people have been saying since then that, like, on paper, heading into a season, Minnesota is extremely talented, possibly one of the most talented teams in the league. And I feel like what Kevin O'Connell needs to do is use Kirk Cousins in the similar way to Sean McVay used Jared Goff.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I feel like Kirk Cousins and Jared Goff are 2 guys on the same level of play. Mm-hmm. Kirk Cousins might even be better.
Yeah, no, I think Kirk Cousins is better. I mean, if you look at the season he had last season.
Yeah, 100%. It can be done with an average QB, but it has to be the right head coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, sorry, you can go.
No, you're good. I definitely believe that Minnesota's getting towards like the recipe to win. They've got the offense now. They're getting the head coach. They're getting the defense.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that made me excited about the Bears is the hiring of like Luke Getsy.
Oh, yeah, I really like that hiring as well.
So it's like that's, I have hope for the offense this year. So we'll see.
Yeah, 100%. And then the last team, the Lions, I honestly feel bad for because I think they got the best draft out of anyone in the whole league.
Yeah, definitely.
They killed it this offseason. Dan Campbell is trying to install a culture, but I still think they're only going to get like maybe 6, 7, 8 wins max.
Yeah, I mean, I just think they're just young,
I think they're young, and I feel like the Bears have a lot of games that can go 50-50, and in the past, all of those games for the Bears have gone the wrong way.
Yeah,
if they go the wrong way, the Bears are placing 4th, and the Lions get 3rd place.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see. At the end of the day,
I'm worried about the lack of offensive weapons.
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, I know the Lions, they had a good draft, and I know that Dan Campbell, he looks promising, and I know...
I love Dan Campbell.
They have P.J. Hawkinson and Jameson Williams now, and, they're starting to have some offensive weapons.
St. Brown.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, St. Brown, yeah. So, but at the end of the day, to me, just growing up and watching the NFC North every year, it's like the Lions are the Lions.
That's exactly. I've watched them have one good year back in 2014.
Yeah, that's what worries me. Is like I want to I want to have trust in the Lions and I want to believe in them, but it's just I've seen
it's not going to happen.
Yeah, I've seen it so many times. So I don't know.
So we're both in agreement. Packers are going to win the North.
Yeah.
Vikings or Bears in 2nd or 3rd, and then probably Lions in the 4th. Do you have any more thoughts on the NFC North for today?
I don't think so. I'm good.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in to another edition of the Adam Eisen Show. I'll be back in another few days with episode 31. But until then, be on the lookout for my YouTube shorts, which I post almost every day with betting advice for the NBA playoffs and when any major news breaks. I also want to say thank you to Jonathan for coming onto the show again and helping me break down the NFC North. We may not agree on much, but it was a great time as always. And until next time, peace.